Most people watched SAP Sapphire 2026 and saw the same story: AI, Joule, agents, cloud, bigger words, better slides. But they missed the biggest shift in SAP in decades. SAP just stopped positioning itself as a system that records your work, and it wants to become a system that does part of your work. For years, SAP held the data. You created the purchase order, you approved the invoice, you investigated the variance, you built the report, you chased the status. SAP recorded what happened. Now, SAP wants the system to find the issue, pull the data, route the work, draft the action, flag the exceptions, and bring the human in when judgment is needed. Now, that is not just a chatbot. That changes how an SAP program is, and it changes what SAP consultants get paid for. So if your job is just clicking buttons, writing documents, or chasing status updates, you are in trouble. Not because you're getting fired tomorrow, but because the companies will pay less for that work every year. If you understand processes, data, controls, and how AI agents should operate inside a business, you're moving into a market that is becoming more valuable. And in this video, I will show you the one shift most people missed at Sapphire, the 5 announcements that prove it, what is real today versus what is still coming, and what businesses and consultants need to do next. Because 2 years from now, people will look back at Sapphire 2026 and realize that SAP was not just launching features, it was changing the job of the system. It was moving from a system of record to a system of execution. So let's get into it. SAP Sapphire 2026 was not really a product launch. It was SAP showing a new operating model. SAP calls it the autonomous enterprise. Yeah, I know it sounds like a big consulting phrase, but forget the label for a second. Here's what it actually means. SAP is building 3 layers. The first layer is how people interact with SAP. That is Joule Work. So instead of opening 10 applications and remembering 20 transaction codes, you tell the system what you need done. The second layer is where the work actually gets done. And this is the SAP Autonomous Suite. So finance, procurement, supply chain, HR, customer experience. This is where the assistants and the agents are expected to coordinate work across the processes. The third layer is where companies build, connect, and control all of it. That is the SAP Business AI platform. And this includes the data, the process context, the governance, the controls, and the tools for building custom agents and workflows. So think of it like this. Joule Work is the front door, the Autonomous Suite is the workforce, and the Business AI platform is the control room. That is the actual Sapphire story. Not, here is another AI feature. SAP wants Joule to become the place where all the people start their work. You tell it the outcome, then SAP works out the systems, the information, the workflows, the people needed to move the work forward. Let me give you a simple example. So a finance controller sees that the month-end close is delayed. So today they call accounting. Accounting checks the journals, procurement checks the invoices, someone checks the purchase order, someone else checks the goods receipt. Then there is a Teams call, then an Excel file, then another Teams call, 5 people, 4 systems, 12 different emails, and 3 days. SAP is trying to turn that into one instruction. Why are we behind on close? Then the system should identify the blocked items, find the likely cause, pull the information together, route work to the right people, and bring the real exceptions back to the controller. So the human still owns the decision, but the human is no longer wasting 2 days chasing information. That is the shift. So SAP is moving from recording the work to coordinating and executing parts of the work. And that is why this matters. Now, I want to be very clear. This does not mean every SAP customer is autonomous today. It does not mean that you can walk into a company next week and hand finance, procurement, or supply chain to an AI agent. A lot of what is showing today is being rolled out in stages. Some capabilities are available now, and some are, early access. Some of these are still on the roadmap, And so do not promise an autonomous enterprise by September. That would be nonsense. But do not make the opposite mistake either, right? Do not ignore the direction because every part is not live today. The direction is what matters. SAP has told every customer where the enterprise software is going. Less navigation, less screen knowledge, less manual coordination, more outcome based work, more work happening in the background, more human attention spent on decisions that actually matter. And that changes what businesses need to prepare for. So your next SAP roadmap cannot be only an S/4HANA roadmap. It needs to become a processes, a data, controls, and a decision rights roadmap. Because once a system starts doing more than just showing information, you kind of need to answer different questions. What can a system recommend? What can it draft? What can it execute? What always needs human approval? Who owns the outcome when something goes wrong? Most companies have not answered these questions. They have an SAP roadmap. Now, they do not have an AI decisions roadmap. And this is where the real problem starts. So, the first announcement that matters is Joule Work. So, a lot of people will ignore this because it looks like a new screen. It is not. SAP saying users should not need to know where the work lives anymore. Today, work is scattered. Procurement is in one place, finance is another, supply chain is somewhere else, and reports are in Excel. Conversations are in Teams, documents are in SharePoint. The user becomes the integration layer. They chase everyone. They pull information together. They decide what to do next. Joule Work is SAP trying to remove that manual coordination. Instead of navigating from system to system, you start with the outcome. Examples could be find the supplier risk, prepare the month end review, explain why these orders are late, create a compliance sourcing event, show me what is blocking production. The system is supposed to bring together the right data, the right workflows, assistant, and agent to move that work forward. So that changes training too. For years, SAP training has been click here, enter this, press save, run this transaction, use this report. But the future training model is completely different. What can I ask the system to do? What can it do on its own? These are some of the questions. Another question could be when do I need to check in? When do I need to stop it? When do I need to escalate it? That is the decision training. And most SAP programs are not really planning for it. They are still training people to click screens while SAP is moving towards people managing outcomes. The second announcement is the SAP Autonomous Suite. This is where SAP moved from AI features to AI workers. So SAP announced more than 50 domain assistants across finance, procurement, supply chain, HR, and customer experience. Now, those assistants are expected to coordinate specialized agents underneath them. Now, do not get lost in the numbers. The important thing is not whether SAP has 50 assistants or 200 agents. The most important thing is what are they trying to automate? Not one field, not one report, not one form. It's chains of work. A normal automation says, fill this field, send this reminder, route this form. An agent based workflow will say, here is the business outcome. These are the systems involved. These are the steps. These are the controls. These are the people who need to approve. I will move the work forward and bring you the exceptions. Now, that is a much bigger change. SAP projects have always been full of handoffs, right? Finance hands something to procurement, procurement hands something to accounts payable hands something to treasury. Then someone builds a report because nobody can see the whole picture. Agents are being designed to work across all these handoffs. That is why the consultant who only knows one box will struggle. And you've seen me writing these in my comments as well as in my previous videos. A person who understands the whole process gets stronger. Take an consultant. In the old world, it was all about purchase requisitions, purchase orders, approvals, goods receipts, all of these elements, invoices, these were all elements that came together. The new world is going to be completely and totally different. It will be all about supplier risk. It will be about contract compliance. It will be about demand patterns. It will be approval controls, spend leakage. The consultant is no longer just configuring a transaction, they are deciding how the work should flow when the system begins to take action. Now, that is a much bigger job and it's a better paid job, but only if you can make that jump. Now, you might be thinking that sounds great for standard SAP processes, but what about the custom mess that we've built over the last 15 years? Exactly. And that is where Sapphire got most serious. SAP knows that most companies do not run standard processes. They have custom workflows, custom approval rules, custom reports, custom code, old integrations, workarounds nobody wants to touch. So SAP did not say use our AI assistant. It said build and govern your own agents and workflows. Now, that is what Joule Studio is all about. And this is where developers, architects, and functional consultants need to pay really close attention. Think about a normal project today. The business has an idea, they write a vague requirement, the functional consultant interprets it, the architect changes it, the developer asks questions, the testers find the gaps, and then the business says, you know, that is not what we meant. And so 6 weeks are gone. So SAP is now trying to compress that chain. The business describes an outcome, the system uses process context, data context, and architecture context to help structure the solution. But this does not mean the consultant disappears. It means that the low value translation work gets squeezed. The valuable work remains. Is the process right? Is the control safe? Is the data good enough? Does the agent have the authority to do this? What is the approval boundary? What evidence needs to be kept? What happens when the agent is wrong? This is where people get confused. They think that the future career is a prompt engineer. It is not. Anybody can type, create an agent for procurement. That is not valuable. The valuable person is the one who can say, this agent can recommend suppliers, but it cannot select them. It can draft the contract, but legal must approve the final version. It can create a purchase requisition, but anything above this value needs human approval. It can identify a maintenance risk, but a qualified engineer must authorize the work order. That is the job. Process, data, controls, authority, exceptions. That is where SAP consultants need to move. Now, people will say, SAP has been talking about AI for years. Why is this any different? Because SAP is trying to connect the bill layer, the data layer, and the governance layer. Now, that is what makes this more serious than a chatbot. SAP is talking about business context. They're talking about processes, data, architecture. They're talking about controls, identity, approval. The AI needs to understand how the business works, before it can safely do anything useful. Because AI without context is like a very clever intern with no access to the files. It can talk, it cannot safely run the business. And this is why the opportunity is much bigger than put AI into SAP. The opportunity is fixing the mess around SAP. And you all will be knowing this. It's about bad master data, broken approval flows, manual workarounds that have been created over ages, custom code nobody really understands, reports which are outside of the system. And we're all guilty of this, Excel reports. Processes that only work because one person has been there for the last 15 years. Now, those are not small problems anymore. They are blockers. Because an agent cannot run a process nobody has properly defined. It will just run the mess faster. Now, this is also where industry AI matters. So forget write me a better email. Think about business outcomes. I want to reduce downtime. I want to prevent a failure. I want to protect the margin. I want to reduce invoice exceptions. I want to shorten month end close. I want to keep production running. This is where this becomes real. Nobody cares if you implement Joule. The CFO cares about the close. He cares about cash. He cares about controls. The procurement director cares more about, the spend leakage. The plant manager cares more about downtime. The CHRO cares about workforce capacity. That is how consultants need to talk now. Not we can implement AI, but we can solve your business problem with a controlled agent. So let's talk about announcement number 4. It is easy to look at all of this and think SAP will just turn it on and it will work. It will not. And SAP knows that. And that is why it has put €100 million fund behind partner-led adoption. SAP is not only asking partners to resell AI, it is funding partners to help customers deploy SAP built assistants, extend them, and build custom agents using Joule Studio. Because SAP knows customers do not buy an AI assistant and magically get value. Someone has to map the processes, someone has to clean the data, someone has to set the controls, someone has to build the extension, someone has to train the users, someone has to prove the business result. That someone is the consulting ecosystem. So, no, this is not a message that SAP consulting disappears. It's a message that weak SAP consulting gets exposed. The old model was sell a large program, configure the modules, build the custom code, train the users, go live, fix the defects. The model forming now is completely different. It's find one business outcome, build a control proof, measure the value, improve it, and then move to the next process. So it's a smaller starting point, but a faster proof and more business ownership. There's more ongoing governance that will be definitely required and more value measured in results and not in days built. This is where the money is moving. And the consultants who learn this early will shape the offers everyone else copies later. The fifth announcement matters most if you are still on ECC or S4HANA on premise. SAP linked access to selected AI scenarios with a cloud transition commitment. Now, that is the commercial message hiding inside Sapphire. This is not SAP changing the ECC deadline. It is more important than that. SAP is making cloud migration and innovation access decision. So for years, companies asked, how long can we stay on ECC? Now they need to ask a different question, which really blew my mind. What business capabilities are we missing by staying where we are? What will competitors be able to do before us? What would it take to make one important outcome available in the next 12 months? Now that changes the boardroom conversation. So do not scare clients by saying ECC is dead tomorrow. That is lazy consulting. The better conversation is which business outcome are you missing because of your current platform? What data processes and control works needs to happen first? What should move to the cloud? What should stay where it is and why? And that is where you become useful. 3 objections that you will hear, and let me deal with the 3 comments that are coming. So, number 1, this is all marketing. None of this works. Partly through, some of this is already live, some of it is rolling out, and some of it is still in the roadmap. Now, this is exactly why you should not try to transform every process in the company all at once. Start with one painful process, one measurable outcome, one clear approval boundary, one owner, and then prove it. Number 2 is our data is terrible. We are definitely not ready. Also true. But waiting until every piece of master data is perfect is how companies wait forever. Pick one bounded process, invoice exceptions, supplier onboarding, contract renewals, maintenance work orders, month-end reconciliations. Fix the data needed for that process only, right? Define the rules, set the controls, build the proof around it. Then move to the next one. AI will make mistakes. We cannot let it run finance or supply chain. The future is an agent doing the repetitive work, spotting the exceptions, and putting the most important decision in front of the right human with the right information. That is the model, not just blind automation. And that is why human SAP expertise still matters, maybe more than before. So, what should businesses do next? Most people will wait for a manual, they'll wait for a course, they will wait for SAP to make everything clearer. Now, if you do these 5 things now, you will be the person writing the manual when the program starts. So, number 1 is pick one business outcome, not one technology. So, do not say we need an AI strategy. You need to say we need to reduce the close by 2 days. We need to reduce invoice exceptions. We need to stop approval delays. We need to reduce unplanned maintenance downtime. So, pick one problem people actually care about. So, number 2 is assign a business owner, not IT, not innovation, not a project team with no authority. a business owner who owns the result. Without that, you will just build a demo. And demos really do not change businesses. Number three, very important, draw the red lines. What can the agent recommend? What can it draft? What can it execute? What always needs human approval? Write it down before anyone builds anything. Number four, clean the process around the use case, not every process in the company, the one you picked. Remove the workarounds, fix the data, clarify the rules, define the exception part, right? This is really critical for you to succeed. Number five is use the cloud discussion properly. Do not just make it like a technical migration argument. Connect it to a business capability, the adoption timing, and the competitive pressure. That is the business case. Now, if you are an SAP consultant, your move is really simple. First, pick one business domain. Either you're in finance, procurement, supply chain, HR, manufacturing, asset management. Do not try to become an expert in every agent SAP releases. So pick one area. Second, learn the end-to-end process, not just the configuration area. So if you are in FI, understand the close, the tax, the procurement, the treasury, the intercompany controls and reporting. Now, if you are understand sourcing, contracts, buying, receiving, invoices, supply risk, and spend controls. If you are success factors, understand skills, workforce planning, learning, manager decisions, employee experience. Third is get hands on, build something small when you can access the tools. So, one useful workflow, one practical agent, one process where you understand the data, the rules, the approvals, and the exceptions. Fourth is learn the surrounding landscape, Signavio, LeanIX, Business Data Cloud, security, identity, integration, clean core, because agents are not a front end tool, they touch the whole landscape. And fifth, change how you describe yourself. Do not just say, I'm an SAP FI consultant. Say, I help finance teams shorten and control the close. Do not just say, I'm an SAP consultant. Say, I help procurement teams reduce spend leakage, supplier risk, and approval delays. Now, that difference matters. One sounds like a resource, and the other one sounds like someone who owns a business problem. If this has helped you understand what Sapphire actually means, please subscribe to my channel. Every week, I break down what is changing in SAP, what still matters, and what you should learn before you waste months moving in the wrong direction. So, the one SAP Sapphire announcement most people miss was not a feature, it wasn't a chatbot. It's all about less clicking, less chasing, less manual coordination, and it's more about judgment, more control, more ownership, and more business impact. But only for the people who learn how to work in this model. So tell me in the comments, which area gets hit first? Do you think it's finance? Do you think it's procurement? Do you think it's supply chain, HR, project management? And are you looking at this as a threat or the biggest SAP opportunity in years? I put a free guide in the description that explains where SAP agents fit into the real SAP landscape. You know, what they can do now, where controls are needed, and how consultants can start building a credible offer around them. Send this video to one person who still thinks that Sapphire was just another AI launch. They may be missing the actual story. So watch this next video where I break down what this shift means for SAP project managers and why the role is moving towards an agent manager. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.